question? Yeah.
No, I don't have
Yeah.
question,
But
Professor.
yeah, you have a comment to make?
I still not. I gonna talk during the lessons.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's wait for others. Anyone else? Helen, would you like to supplement your feedback?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Actually, I am not yet very much comfortable with regards to the tools that we spoke yesterday. Yesterday, I had my network was not very good, so I couldn't follow.
Okay.
So I wanted to understand a little bit more in how to apply.
Okay.
So I'm waiting so that maybe the class today can be more clarified.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you can maybe just in a short try to, I mean, I didn't get the examples in and how to apply. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
That is Etelvina? Who was that?
Sorry, Michelle from Mozambique.
Michelle. Okay. Okay, Michelle, I think today's class is integral of it, but it has got a different focus. But I would very briefly say before others join for your benefit, I think what we were discussing is the on the foundation that we had on the gender concepts and women's rights and the power for social change. From those conceptual things, we are now concentrating on the tools and strategies that we would use for understanding gender inequality that exists, and then how do we work on them. So we are thinking that gender analysis that will help us in terms of if, how, and why issues affect differently women, men, and other gender. What policies exist that are they contributing to gender equality? Are they reinforcing inequality? So that those gaps we would advocate for. So it's more in terms of understanding the existing inequalities in terms of roles and responsibilities, access and control over resources. So that in terms of look at how do we address those things? What options exist to overcome those inequalities? So we were discussing various frameworks that will help us to understand the inequalities that exist in the society. So we looked in terms of social relations approach, which understands in terms of from three angles. One, from the social relationships that exist, how unequal, how harmful are they? And then it is also looks in terms of institutional barriers that will are institutional processes that reinforce these social relationships. And the thirdly, in terms of what are the causes for it. So this is a threefold relationship analysis that will help in terms of existing inequalities and the institutions that perpetuate and the structural causes that influence them. So we looked in terms of how what the gender framework, which looks in terms of the roles and responsibilities through activity profile, and then also looks in terms of the access and control. And then what are the influencing factors? It's focused more on roles and responsibilities and access. It looks in terms of the existing gender division of labor and how do you address that. And then Moser framework is more a planning tool that looks at not only in terms of the roles and responsibilities, but very specific in terms of what are the differential needs between men, women, and other gender, and particularly in terms of strategic and practical needs. So today we are going to discuss about reinforce more on the strategic needs. And then it also looks in terms of access and control and the reason, but the specific thing is in terms of what policies exist, what gaps exist so that you can advocate for them. And we were looking in terms of, see, these are the three commonly used frameworks. And there are other things which you can look in terms of the socio-economic and gender analysis, or in terms of environmental scanning, looking into all socio-economic, political, and environmental factors that contribute to gender inequality. Or we can look at gender analysis matrix. And we also looked in terms of capacities and vulnerabilities, more during the conflicts or a humanitarian crisis. So we looked in terms of that no one tool is adequate for us to understand gender inequality. So we may have to have a combination of those things. So, and we said that the gender analysis is a political tool because it is looking in terms of existing inequalities and then what options exist to transform them. So therefore it is transformational, it is political. So therefore it doesn't end only in terms of understanding it, but also transforming those relationships. So yesterday we had the session to reinforce those frameworks, and mostly we talked about the Harvard framework, which Harvey has set. And then there were other two in terms of vulnerabilities and capabilities. And the third one was the gender comprehensive framework. So all contributing to understanding in depth the inequalities that exist and then planning how to overcome them. Is that okay, Michelle?
Thank you so much. Yes, it's okay. I understood.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah. You're most welcome to ask any further clarifications. You can also send it to my email. I will be able to clarify that. Okay.
Thank
okay,
you
let's
so much.
begin today. And we have with us our friend Abdallah. He is from Mozambique. I was personally very inspired by his participation in cohort 2. He comes from an activist background right from childhood. He has been an activist working on various social causes, certainly on children, and now more in terms of the women. So I have requested him to share our second discussion, which is in terms of how important is meeting the strategic gender needs. So Abdullah will share his perspective or his understanding for 15 minutes, and then we will follow it with discussion. So Abdullah, thank you very much for joining us. And the floor is now open for you. Would you like to share extempo or would you like to use PowerPoint?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for the word.
Yeah.
Well, I think actually my computer is not logged with, but I have a PPT here. I think I can share via PPT. I can.
I will co-host you so that you can.
Okay, colleagues, just hold on a minute while I connect my computer.
Abdullah, you can share the screen because I have allowed you as a co-host.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes, Abdullah.
Well, I think for now it's impossible for sure. I'm facing troubles in my computer and
Okay.
the connection to the internet.
Okay.
I can present without a PPT.
Yeah, sure, sure. You can go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Hope you are fine.
Yeah.
My name is Abdallah Joao. I'm Mozambican, as our dear Damo said here. I had opportunity to participate in cohort 2. It was very nice course, and it's my first English course, and I've never done before. So it's amazing. I hope you enjoy the course. Well, for this cohort, I'm just going to participate. I would like to participate every sessions, but it's for now is not possible because of work, studying. But I looked for just a minute for participate today. So for why is meeting strategic gender needs important for greater gender equality? And then, so going to the first question we had, how does gender analysis help in addressing unequal power relations and differential needs of women and men? Well, gender analysis help us addressing unequal power relations and differential needs of women and men by examining the experience of women, men in different aspects of their life, such as social, economic, education, health, and political. Are you listening to me very well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as I was saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
if
maybe somebody from the participant, if you can respond to Abdullah, because is that clear? Can we?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, go ahead, Abdullah.
Okay. So that gender, the genders help us understanding the experience of women, men in different aspects of their life, such as social, economic, education, health, political aspects. So we gotta understand that gender analysis, it's help us identify how local beliefs, cultural norms, and the context in which programs operate impact them differently within existing socials, economic, and political structures. Examine difference in how they are able to decide, influence, control, enforce, and engage in individual and collective actions. Understand and assess how our own policies, programs, and projects may impact them differently. Help us to identify gender-related inequalities and opportunities that may affect project outcomes, and how to ensure that they can be addressed within project design, implementation, and evaluation. So by providing us gender analysis, by providing us data, with these data we can draw our resource carefully, wisely, knowing how much we need for women and men, boys and girls, as we look in terms of equity and equality gender. Is that clear?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
May I go on?
Aiswin is saying yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so looking here in terms of how would I integrate strategic gender needs from gender analysis into advocacy? Well, as you know, gender analysis involves collecting and analyzing sex disaggregated data to understand the gender differences. Gender advocacy uses disaggregated data by sex and age in reviewing such important of the existing policies, as well as formulating accurate development policies and programs and assessing their outcomes. After gender analysis and identifications of need, I can come up with a report, but also policies document. I will demonstrate how important it is to address the strategic gender needs. To do this, so the report or policy brief should help you do this. Most advocacy is done through evidence, based reports and briefings. So gender analysis provides us these tools, provide us these tools to influence policies maker as legislators and government officials. We need to present them with a brief of a policy document that we have their data about disaggregated in sex and age. So by using this, we can influence very helpful, easily them to make decisions. Is that clear?
It is.
May I repeat, or you understood?
Aishwin is saying yes. Sabdu.
Continue.
Continue. Continue. Nancy is saying
Continue.
continue.
Yes, okay.
Okay, yeah.
So, how does the work on gender strategic needs contribute to increasing women's status and positions in the society? Well, here for this we have to, I think we have to look for in terms of 3 roles: strategic gender needs in community roles, strategic gender needs in community roles, strategic gender needs in reproductive roles, and protective roles. Well, strategic gender needs in community role. Strategic gender needs of women in community roles are those space for collective organizations, for freedom of expressions, upgradations of their skills, taking up leadership at community level, and this bring equity in political participation, gender budgeting, created for capital assets in the name of women. The more the women are organized, the chances are more for empowerment of women and justice in the society. And in long term, the question for women role in governments will also change positively when space is created for women leadership. When we look in terms of strategic gender needs in reproductive roles, as we understand, the reproductive roles always keeps the woman more susceptible for abuses. Violence against the woman mostly takes place in the homes, and therefore women access to control over their lives and bodies could be strategic gender needs. Thought the inequalities have been caused by gender discriminations, change and positive. Oh my God. Well, let's see in terms of strategic gender needs in productive roles. Well, here we look at provision of training in non-traditional entrepreneurship, land in the name of women, give them decisions making, and women as agriculture pioneer, increase the agriculture production, and evade poverty and hunger. So I want to share with you the indicators of strategic gender needs. Access to capital investment, land rights, political equality, sharing of domestic labor and child care by men, legislation to challenge the abuses of women, entry of women in non-traditional occupational sectors, reproductive rights, control over their bodies, thoughts of women. When I say equal status of women, I'm looking in terms of constitutional provision and gender budgeting. Could you understand? Hello?
Yeah. Can someone respond, please?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, Jessica is saying, yeah.
Any
Proceed.
question?
Yeah.
Any question? There's a space where you didn't understand?
Yeah.
A place you didn't understand?
Anyone, if you have any clarification, please ask. Catalina?
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Kindly clarify on the indicators. I didn't get.
Okay.
Well, after responding the question here, how does the work on gender strategic needs contribute to increase women's status and positions in the society? Yeah. I've shared with you 3 roles. One of them, strategic gender needs in the community. Yeah. Roles are in strategic gender needs in community roles, strategic gender needs in productive roles, strategic gender needs in reproductive roles. So after that, I shared the indicators of strategic gender needs, such as access to capital investment, land rights, equality wage, political equality, sharing of domestic labor and child care by men, legislations to challenge the abuses of women, entry of women in non-traditional occupational sectors, and reproductive rights, controls over their bodies, equal status of women. So here, equality of status of women, I was looking in terms of constitutional provision and gender budgeting. So if some of you didn't understand about the roles I was sharing here, I was saying that strategic gender needs in the community roles of women in community roles are the space for collective organizations where women can have a freedom of expressions, upgradations of their skills, taking up leadership at community level, and this brings equity in political participation, gender budgeting, credit for capital assets in the name of women. The more an asset, the more the women are organized, and the chances are more for women, more for empowerment of women and justice in the society. And long-term, the equations for women role in governments will also change positively when a space is created for women and leadership. So a strategic gender needs in protective roles to provide training in non-traditional entrepreneurship, land in the name of women, in the name of women, give them decisions making, and women as agriculture pioneer increase the agriculture production, elevate poverty and hunger. Strategic gender needs in reproductive roles. As we understand, the reproductive role always keeps the women more this word is very difficult. So susceptible for abuses. Violence against the woman mostly takes place in the homes, and therefore women access to control over their lives, and barriers could be strategic gender needs through the inequalities have been caused by gender discriminations, the attitudinal change and positive. So this is what I was sharing with you in terms of how does the work on gender, strategic gender needs contribute increasing the women's status and position in the society. So, and for being honest, what I like, the questions I liked a lot to respond was how would you integrate strategic gender needs from gender analysis into advocacy? So I think it's very important. We have to look for a gender analysis is a power tool to collect information for advocacy, because you can't influence legislators and or government officials without disaggregated data, information, more information about what you want to influence, what you want to make, why you want, as here in Mozambique, we created laws that punish the people who marry earlier the children. So for that, we could have, we had a sex disaggregated data as power of gender analysis to explain, to influence the policymaker that more girls are not studying as more boys are studying. Exists a huge difference between men and women, the boys and girls studying. So we have to create a law that punish people that marry earlier their girls. So, and I said after gender analysis and identifications of need, you can, or we can come up with a report, but also a policy document. We will demonstrate how important it is to address the strategic gender need to this. So the report or policy brief should keep us to do this.
Thank you, Abdullah. That was wonderful. You have touched on various things. I'm very particularly impressed the way you presented the strategic gender needs from 3 roles that they perform: the productive, reproductive, and community roles. I think very well said. I think we need to take forward. I think it may also help Michela, because one of the key thing in the gender analysis is in terms of how do we look at the differential needs of women, men, and other gender. So that's where the importance of practical and strategic needs come. The practical needs are related to the assigned role. Assigned role by the society for women is to fetching water, caring children. These are all the things that are fetching firewood. These are all expected from women. Those are assigned roles. So how do we ease those roles is related to practical, whereas the strategic needs are questioning and transforming the position of woman, the status of woman, which is more in terms of what Abdullah has identified from three different ones in terms in the productive role. How do they access, have and control over resources? How do we look at that there is the wages are equal? And then there are skills if you are giving, they are not stereotypical. And he looked in terms of the reproductive more in terms of looking how does there is a shared responsibility. There is a freedom of choice for women to make in their reproductive, sexual and reproductive health and rights. And not particular in terms of community role, I was very impressed in terms of the political participation, in terms whether it is in terms of the elections or in terms of raising the gaps in the legislations. How does the policies and practices are contributing to the reducing the gender inequality? So let's look at in terms of how do you see, and then any quick comments to Abdullah, and then we will proceed, because how clear are you now in terms of how important is the strategic gender needs? Because while the practical needs, I'm not undermining that they are important. I think yesterday, Katilina made a very important distinction. The same need, how can you see it more from a practical point of view and a strategic point of view? She was referring to the fetching water. So provision of borewell can be a practical need, but the issues that are surrounding in terms while fetching water that the woman faces, if we address those needs in terms of abuse, in terms of violence, then on the second one is in terms of who shares. Is it only by providing drinking water borewell, are we expecting only women to do it, or is it also talking about both men and women share it? If you are talking about those things, then it becomes strategic. So if you are only meeting a particular role thing, then it is practical. But if you are questioning the gender roles and responsibilities, and then that's what the strategic gender role. So if you are challenging those roles and responsibilities, then you are deconstructing it and then transforming them, which will enhance the status and position of women. If you are addressing violence, so violence is a one form of expression of power over by men, male domination. So if you are addressing that, which means you are addressing in terms of the male domination. So therefore, when you look at male domination, then you are actually tackling the woman's subordination. And so therefore the women enjoy a better status in terms of free from violence. Okay, I leave at that, and then any comments from anyone? You can ask any further questions to Abdullah. Or you can acknowledge Abdullah's contribution. Yes, Jane. Jane Rubin. Hello. Jane Rubin, you raised your hand. Hello. Yes, Jessica, you go ahead. I think Jane is. Yeah. Who is that? Hello.
Hello?
Yes, yes, Jen. Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm using my phone, so I could not I could not be able to unmute myself.
Okay, okay.
So I want to appreciate the presentation by Abdallah, and I want to kind of echo that the strategic issues really are very key. I would say that maybe they are the foundation of even the practical for actually kind of enhancing the practicability of equality, of gender equity, and also the equality in and especially so, like she alluded, in agriculture.
Yeah.
I'm taking, for example, in Kenya we have the gender affirmative action.
Yeah.
And if you carry out the analysis, how many women maybe are supposed to get maybe water, even water supply for maybe for a kitchen garden. So from that that analysis and then the practical bit simply fits in, and I think that is very key, and that was a very good insight. I really appreciate that. It's very practical, and with that we are also able now to look at that practical bit.
Yeah.
That water, how if it is maybe a pump, how you are able to look even at to put in issues of the design, especially so for the agricultural projects. You look right from the inputs. What are we going to use for this particular maybe water resource? The people who be fetching water will be able to draw. Maybe you have you use our children to draw water. How practical is it? Does it mean muscles to be able to draw that water? The ease of it. So right from the designing up to the utilization of any resource, then that comes in very key. And if we don't have if it is not it's not anchored in any strategic action, then sometimes it might not see the light of the day. Thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Jessica? And then Veronica. Jessica? Jessica, go ahead. Yes, Veronica. I think Jessica is... Jessica can... Hello? Okay, Veronica? Let's see how clear is the distinction between practical and strategic needs. Let's just get a feel of it. Are we clear what is practical and strategic needs? Yes, Jessica?
Sorry, good afternoon.
Yeah. Good
I
afternoon.
think my hand was raised by mistake, but let me say something.
Okay. You don't
Yeah.
need to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah.
And I want to appreciate the speaker who has spoken about both the strategic and practical gender needs.
Yeah.
And in my view, if we meet the strategic in gender needs and both and also the practical gender needs, what I can see is that we are moving towards gender equality, because if we try to challenge the subordinate position of women in society, whether it is in the three laws, that is reproductive, productive, and community, then it means that strategically, like the previous speaker has spoken, if the policymakers challenge this gap by coming up with things like affirmative action, Like in Kenya, we have the Women Fund. These women funds assist women to get money from the government, which is not having a lot of interest. Of course, the percentage of the repay, the repay is about 5%, which means if they're in business and they want actually to venture into entrepreneurship with such low interest rates, what we are saying is that they can be economically empowered, which is actually a strategic gender needs that is trying to assist women be able to enter to move from the informal to the formal sector. Which then means, in other words, actually we are ensuring gender equality. If we look at the practical gender laws, for instance, we know that these are the socially accepted roles of women in society, and if they are accepted roles, for instance, as you've stated, women are supposed to give birth, women are supposed to fetch water, women are supposed to fetch firewood, to cook, etc., etc. And we come up with we assist them in their practical, we come up with the practical gender needs. For instance, women giving birth, and also being employed. And we come up with, for example, care rooms in our places where they can go, they can come to work and breastfeed. What we are saying is that we are meeting their practical and gender needs. If it is a case of water provision, like in Kenya, northern parts of Kenya, there's a arid parts of Kenya, women move very long distances to fetch water. And if we provide tap water, then what we are saying is that we are meeting their practical gender needs. We also know that, for instance, women are the ones who are supposed to put food on the table. They are the ones that are supposed to make sure that the family has a nutritious diet. And then we train them. Or even you come up with kitchen gardens on how to raise them. What we are saying is that we are meeting their practical gender needs. In other words, what I'm saying is that, or what I'm seeing here is that if we meet the practical gender needs, then it means that we are reducing the drudgery of women when it comes to reproductive, productive, and community laws. And when you look at the strategic needs, if we meet the strategic laws that try to challenge their subordinate position, what you are saying is that we are ensuring, or you are trying to ensure, gender equality in the community, in the communities that you are living. And most of these ones can mostly be met by policymakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. I think you have made the distinction very clear. I'm happy about that. Okay, let's start in terms of, let's see in your context, name one strategic gender need that is relevant.
You're asking me?
No, anyone in the group. I'm talking anyone in the group. I think you have made a distinction. I think the practical, I think very important in terms what you said, it is more in terms of relieving from drudgery. That's where you look from practical. The strategic is which looks in terms of how do we enhance the position of women. So keep that in terms of, let's look at what is the need, what is a strategic gender need in your context that will contribute to enhancing women's position or status.
For instance, in Kenya, we have, I'm not, might be, I won't quote the right statistics. We have women battering. And though it's not well documented, you can go out there in the field, you talk to the people there, you hear how they are beaten. And we have a policy in Kenya on gender-based violence. 2006, 2003. And if this policy is implemented the way it has been put clearly in the policy, then it means that the domestic violence that exists in our homes will be reduced. And because, of course, there are penalties for the people who harass women or who commit these crimes, it's only that most people in the society are not aware of their rights. if they are meant to be aware,
Yeah.
then it means that because there are laws and there are policies that support gender-based violence, then what you are saying is that if these are implemented, and of course, as I talk, they are meeting the strategic gender needs, then it means that we are trying to ensure gender equality in society, because the perpetrators of these crimes will be discouraged from beating their wives, from beating the young ones. Or of course, when you talk of power, exercising power over the rest and gender.
Good.
Yeah, that's all I can say.
Thank you, Jessica. I think it was wonderful. I think we'll continue on the domestic violence. Meanwhile, I think Abdullah has raised his hand. Let's see what are his comments. Abdullah. Abdullah, you wanted to share anything? Abdullah? Hello? Let us take forward the violence. I think Jessica has raised a very important one. How does it contribute to, if you're working on violence, domestic violence, how does it contribute to improving the status and position of women? Can others share? Certainly, it's addressing domestic violence is a strategic need. So how does it contribute? Jaharul ji?
Yes, thank you, Dabuji, for a good opportunity to say something about today's topics. I share the mentions practical gender needs and strategic gender needs.
No, Jaharul ji, if you can focus on the now violence, we are talking about violence. In your view, how is violence, if working on violence contributes to improving the status and position of women?
Okay, sorry, I share next time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Anyone? Can I ask the men members here?
Yes, Dabuji, sorry, if you permission that I share my some topics advocacy in our practical field.
Yeah, you can share it, but I'm just trying to continue the discussion. Since we started on violence, because we identified that as one of the strategic need. So if you can move forward, and then certainly before we close, you can certainly share your thing. So Abdullah, you have anything to share? Abdullah? Yes, Jessica.
Hello, thank you. Well,
Yes,
I just want to say that are you listening to me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, Abdullah.
Okay. Well, I was just saying that I'm leaving now. I have a report to do.
Okay.
And I wish you a good meeting. I hope you are enjoying this wonderful course. Okay, thank you. See you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Abdullah, for joining us and giving your perspective. It was very wonderful. I find it very useful. Thanks once again. Okay. Okay. Jessica, you want to add anything? Or it Millicent? Let's move forward in terms of violence. Let's see how does it contribute to, if you are addressing. Jessica has raised one point in terms of power. So let's look at in terms of what do you do with that in your, if you're working on violence? Why is there a silence? Yes, Catalina. Thank you. Catalina?
Okay. Most of this violence in my field of work, they come as in different forms.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time we don't get them as domestic violence.
Yeah.
This is because when I get assaulted, I get beaten up. Most times I just go to report to the police that somebody has beaten me up, but then it will be either assault or there's a recent one where it was actually domestic violence.
Yeah.
But what came to the criminal justice system was attempted murder. This lady had is it paraffin or she had burns by the supposedly partner, male partner.
Okay.
So when it came to court, it wasn't about domestic violence. So what happens is when it gets to our office now, we are almost at the end of the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
It is our office that may discover this was a form of domestic violence, but what will be punished will be something different. So maybe there's need for a formulation or a policy that should help maybe the police or the investigators to see if there is a relationship between the perpetrator and the victim of the violence.
Yeah. Thank you, Catalina. I think, then how does the state take the violence? I think it's not in terms of attempt to murder, but it's more of violence. And then, as you rightly said, it's in terms of relation between the victim and the perpetrator. And the victim and perpetrator, I think one of the elements that influence, that contribute to violence is power. That's what Jessica was saying. How do you address that power? If you are working on violence, how does you work? Because that is something that you are looking for, addressing the power relations between men and women. And thank you, Catalina, for making that. So anyone else?
I will talk about the strategic needs. This is really informative, knowing that the practical needs and strategic needs. In terms of now where I work, within the Turkana community, there is a need for domestication of laws that criminalize child marriage, because child marriage happens here. So the domestication and also the implementation of the law, so that it is not just on paper. So that is really important. And also there is a rule that was passed over back to school. When girls get pregnant, they should be back to school. They should be retained, school retention. So there's the domestication, because it is at national level, then it has to be cascaded downwards to the county level. And then also now the duty bearers should be put accountable to the implementation of the laws. So we still have the challenge with the duty bearers, implementation of the laws that are already there. So we have so many laws that are in book, but in action, they're not really existing. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. I think that was another important strategic need. Let's look at in terms of child marriage, you said. What way it is strategic? Keep the policy aside. If you are working on early child marriages, how does it contribute to the position or status of girls?
when when child marriage is ended, when a child is not married early, then it means a child will go to school. Then it means a child's economic power will be high. Then a child, the girl child, the woman will be able to fend for her children. It will delay childbirth, which means she will be able to choose with the number of children she has, whom she can take care of. She'll be able to determine the type of person she wants to marry, and also economically, she will be empowered. To say that when women get education, the more educated, the less children they have. The more control they have over their bodies and over the spouses they want to have, if they want to have or not. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that's what we need to target. I think if you're working on child marriage or early marriage, I think the immediate thing that should come, I will come to what you said, but I think immediate thing is in terms of choice, the freedom of choice. So the girls can have a freedom of choice to decide when to get married. I think the associated one, what you were saying is, in terms of right to education, because they can go to the education school. And the other very important one that you raised, because what is normally happening in terms of early marriages is early pregnancies, which is in terms of the sexual and reproductive health related issues. Early pregnancies are dangerous for girls, because in most cases they will end up in terms of death. So therefore, the working on child marriages or early marriages is strategic in terms of creating an opportunity for freedom of choice for girls in terms of when to marry and whom to marry. The second one is it enables their right to education, continue education, and their right to sexual and reproductive health. So therefore, these three things will contribute in terms of improving their status and position. Thank you, Veronica. And I think we have looked in terms of two so far. One is violence. Violence, I think we looked at power. I think you can also look in terms of violence from the point of, if you are working against violence, then we are talking about the challenging the norms. The norms we need to look at are the source of gender inequality. And the norms go with the relations between, in terms of wherever there is a violence, one of the tacit understanding is that the male violence against women is considered normal. So therefore, when you are working on that, you are breaking that normalcy. You are breaking that stereotypical attitude. Yeah. And then we looked in terms of child or early marriage, which looks in terms of the freedom of choice that the girls can enjoy in terms of when to marry, who to marry. And then it's associated freedom in terms of education and the sexual and reproductive health. Let's look at it. Is there any other strategic need that one would like to work on? Michela, let's see in terms of.
Yes.
Yes, let's see. What do you think that in your context, apart from violence and early marriage, which are the other strategic gender needs that you would like to focus on? Michela?
Yes, I'm listening to you.
Yeah. I agree with you, Vera. I think you, yeah. Yes, Michela, Jessica, and then Nancy. Yeah.
It's about when it regards to environmental scanning, or is it also related to what it was just said, political? is
Sorry.
all around. I was
Hello,
asking, when
can
you
you-
talk about environmental
Yeah.
scanning, is all related to women, but I mean, in terms of political and social cultural as well, right?
Yeah, but environmental,
of-
environmental scanning on what?
When you talk about these frameworks, okay,
Yeah,
in terms of what is environmental, is not within how can I say, practical needs, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is strategic as well.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Michelle.
which-
Yeah, I
Okay.
think there are good things in the chat. One I think is mental health. The other one is FGMs. FGM certainly is a strategic need, Ruth. I think it's also a form of violence against girls. I think that's where we recently saw that video also. The other one, I think, wherever you are talking about participation of women in climate change and resilience. Yeah, it's more in terms of participation of women. Like I think Michelle was also talking about environmental thing, participation of women in actions against the environmental restoration. Very well. Nancy and Jessica.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. And
My
Ruth,
contribution
yeah.
into this is on especially wages
Sorry?
and salaries.
Okay, wages. Okay.
And looking at the Kenyan setup,
Yeah.
giving an example that before the 1990s,
Yeah.
women were not getting house allowance. They could have the equal education with men, but once you get married, you are not entitled to a house allowance, which means that they were not being treated equally until might be a policy was passed that allowed women to earn an equal amount with men, irrespective of their gender. So what I want to emphasize there is that there was no equal wages and salaries.
Yeah.
And this one is, of course, does not cascade downwards. If you go to the informal sector in Kenya, for instance, we find that women who are in the informal sector, for example, in the flower industries, in the horticultural industries, where most men and women are employed, you realize that women will get a less wage compared with a man, yet they are doing the same work. Rarely will you see a woman being appointed as a manager in the informal sector, especially in the flower industry, not because they are capable, they're incapable, but because they are regarded as inferior. So one of the needs here that can be addressed is now the strategic gender needs. The way it was addressed when it came to paying house allowance, which then means whether you are man or woman, in the same job group, you get the same house allowance. That one has been addressed. But when you go to the informal sector, currently, what I can say is that we don't have equal wages for men and women. At the end of the day, you find that women are exploited at the expense of men. So it's a strategic need that needs to be addressed. And if it's addressed, what we are saying is that we are ensuring gender equality.
Thank you, Jessica. That was a fourth strategic need. So equal wages is a strategic need. We need to look at it in terms of why does it become a strategic gender need? Because it's often, like you said, equal work, but not equal wages, which means the work of the woman is undervalued. So there is no equality there. So it's seen as a differential in terms of the work of man is seen superior and the woman is seen inferior or less value. So therefore the wages are given. So if you're working on wages, equality of wages, then you are looking in terms of the valuing of work of men and women. Certainly is. So therefore that contributes to the status and position of women. Thank you, Jessica. Nancy and then Mary.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. I want to talk about voicelessness in terms of participation and allocation of resources. And this is a bit strategic in the sense that the lack of voice in from women, for example, using the Kenyan context of budget process. You find that when women are silent during the public meetings where the development priorities are collected, you find that women, the projects that are initiated are mainly treated towards like supporting the community in general, but not on specific aspects that support women in particular. For example, when it comes to prioritization of projects, you find that projects like maternity or healthcare services do not get allocated sufficient funds or given priority in terms of construction of those facilities. And when it comes to also reviewing the budgets at the tail end, women are missing. So you find that women fail to track the whole process of budgeting because of commitments that they get at home. And also the opportunities the time their husbands or their spouses give them to participate in such meetings. Because you find that political empowerment has been perceived to be a man's forte. And so when it comes to women's voice or women participation, it is limited, limited by cultural beliefs, stereotypes, and also women fail to be assertive in what they really want out there in the space. And then of course, most of them staying at home and providing attention to families, you find that the exposure to public policy or government policy is very limited. Assumption that spouses will take message home or let their wives know about policy is usually not guaranteed. Based on the common reasons that we see in aspects of stereotypes and women's in public space. So that's what I wanted to contribute in this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Mary?
Yeah, thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
I've been very busy today training elders, the community elders.
Oh, good.
For 2 days, this was the last day. And
moving.
yesterday, one of them said, women got spoiled when they went to Beijing.
Okay.
Yeah, women got spoiled when they went to Beijing. We were like, when I was, we were training the elders, we were trying to get to identify cultures, our cultural practices, which fuel violence against women and discrimination. And I want to talk about land, land ownership. In most African communities, women were not allowed to own land, to a level that, like in Western Kenya, in my community, if a man had no sons and he died and he left only daughters, then their cousins, the cousin brothers would throw the daughters out and take their father's land. And this was a big problem. But today now in Kenya, we have a law which gives even the daughters permission to own land. Daughters are allowed to inherit their father's land. But unfortunately, because of socialization, because of the way women have been brought up, it has not been accepted. Like in Western where I am, it is a big problem. And very few of us are even able to claim that land. And it's affecting even like the educated women. You know, they don't want to fight for land their father's land with their brothers. And as much as today our law allows us, our constitution allows daughters to get land, but it has been very difficult and it has caused a lot of violence. In that, when a man dies, you get the family snatching the widow, the property, especially land. Yeah, especially land. But it's something that women are not claiming, but for the few days I've been engaging with women, I've realized that it is because the women don't know. Because after we had the engagement and we trained them on their rights, there have been a lot of reports. Today we had our deputy county commissioner joined us, and she was like, I'm wondering, there are so many women now coming in to demand for land. There are so many women coming to my office to reveal that they are being violated. What we need to do is to empower both women and men to know these rights. You know, we need to empower both men and women to know the existing policies, to know what to do. Today, we were able to identify 10 cultures, 10 cultures that fuel violence on women. And the first one they said was dowry. And the elders said dowry was like an appreciation, but today it has been commercialized. You know, in that when a man pays dowry, he feels like he has bought this woman and she's like a slave and he can treat her in any way she wants. And even parents, when your daughter's dowry has been paid, even if the man treats her very badly, you don't want to interfere. You are like, he already paid dowry. So we were looking at this, and I'm hoping we are going to mitigate most of these cultural practices that fuel, including land. At first, the elders were like, we cannot give women land. And I told them, like, let us look, we had 20 elders, but none of the elders was a woman. So I was with the 20 old men. And after we talked, they have agreed that they are going to recruit the women into the elders council. Thank you.
Okay, good. Let's go a little further, Mary. I mean, how does this ownership of land contribute to I'm just saying, just to go extend further, how does this access to ownership to land improves the status and position of women?
Of course, it's going to give women wealth. You know, when you have land, it is an economic, it's an economic asset. It gives women the ownership of the land. We are thinking of even food security for the woman, which will translate into good health, food security for the family. This woman can even dispose this land and do something else. She can dispose even part of her land and even further her education. But the way it is like a woman owns nothing.
It's a source, it's a very key source of subordination, not depriving them access to ownership and control. So therefore, when we are working on that, that's what would contribute in terms of that they will become independent. They have the scope to expand, sell or improve, and then depend on that. So irrespective whether she has only male children or female children. Thank you, Mary. I would like Rutu to come on. I think a very important one that you have made, that is about the FGM. Let's talk about FGM. How does it, working on FGM is a strategic gender need. And then I will come to Nancy. Ruth, can you come? Can you share? Because we have also seen in terms of how that also becomes a power over situation. It's a cultural practice. It is a violence. There are many facets associated to FGM. Ruth, are you there? Okay. Can anyone else would like to comment on the FGM? Jessica, you want to share anything? Nancy, I saw both you.
Yes, yes, Prof. So FGM, female genital mutilation, has been blamed for curtailing girls' empowerment. And it has a lot of impact in the socioeconomic life of a girl or a woman. And I did a research a few years ago and established that the practice continued to be perpetrated in spite legislation in Kenya that bans this practice. And why it is continuing to be practiced is because it is anchored in the cultural systems and made a rite of passage. And also it is on demand, or it is made a demand by men because of the benefits that they get from the sexual activity from a girl or a woman who has gone through the practice. On the other end, women who have gone through the rite want other girls to go through it because they felt the pain. So they said, I went through pain, why not you? And it is taking away their esteem and their dignity, because the initiation or the training that happened immediately after the practice indoctrinates them to believe that they are subordinate of men and see men as mini-gods or demigods. So that really makes the practice continue to be done, and it contributes significantly to early marriages, cases of fistula because of the genital mutilation aspect. And also it makes women not to be active in the public limelight, because when they are indoctrinated to be subordinates, then it takes away their voice, their agency, and also them living as human, because the practice itself is so dehumanizing. I may not be able to to say in this platform what it actually entails, but it is beyond, I think it can be classified among the heinous acts that needs to be criminalized even in the international space. Because what women go through or the girls go through during that rite cannot be done by a human person. I mean, you have to have consumed something to take somebody through that rite, and also the training, the content that these girls are taken through is barbaric, and I think I would say it is demonic, if I may read it from a religious point of view. So these women don't go beyond their villages. And those who go through, like those who have gone through education, you find that they don't outlive, and they don't live to be strong advocates of the practice because of the odds that they were taken through, because they can't condemn the practice in the open because of the odds that they took in that practice. So it is something that is yet to die, but it is possible. I can say in confidence that we managed to succeed in some communities in the north of Kenya, where we had men as our allies. We used education education and religious systems to really terminate this kind of practice and bring boys in the limelight to really cause demand for marriage of uncircumcised girls. And that has really done us great. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Nancy. I think that was wonderful. I think you have given a very comprehensive picture how FGM is a source of the status and image of girls and women. And working against that, how does it contribute to enhancing their position? And also, thanks for I appreciate the work that you are doing in terms of that this practice is being challenged and not being continued. So far, I think we have looked in terms of one, violence, the child marriage. We looked at environmental decisions, sexual and reproductive health, freedom of bodily integrity. We looked at the equal wages, we looked in terms of ownership and inheritance of land. And then we also looked at cultural practices like FGM. These are all in terms of working on these are strategic needs, because these are all the aspects that put women in a subordinate position. So if you work on that, and if there is a transformation in these norms, rules, and relations, then it is contributing to improving the status and the position of women in the society. Let's look at in terms of how do you see, is there any challenge? What challenges you would face and how would you like to overcome them? Yes, Jessica? I think the other one which people were saying about the participation of women in leadership, I think is important, both at the community level, at the other levels. That could be another strategic gender need. Yeah. Nancy, you have anything to add? Yes, Jessica?
Oh, sorry. For me, just to add on what the previous speaker has spoken.
Okay.
FGM, of course, in Kenya, most of the people who undergo the ritual are married off very early.
Yeah.
And if they are married off very early, what it means is that they are denied their rights to education. If they are denied their rights to education, then it means that they are disempowered. They are not empowered. Because if you're married early, then you don't have control of your body. It is their husbands that determine when to have children, when even to have sex, etc., etc. And that's why we have those people who are married or very early having many kids, some of which they cannot be able to support them effectively. And of course, with this one now, what the government has done to meet their strategic needs is by coming up with of course, FGM is regarded as gender-based violence. It's part of gender-based violence in Kenya. When you look at the policies that are existing, especially the one I talked of, 2006, and of course, the government has come up with a framework. And we have so many people who are advocating to end gender-based violence. The only issue is that not all the communities are aware of the rules that are existing, but they are not aware of the penalties that exist And as some of my previous speakers have spoken, they are trying the best they can to ensure that these women, both men and women, are empowered to know the repercussions of gender-based violence, which is, of course, part of FGM. That's what I can hand.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Let me hear the male voice, because no one is talking. We have Abraham, we have Bill, we have Johral. Can you now respond in terms of, according to you, how do you look at importance of strategic needs? I think with that we may have to close. Any male voice? We didn't hear Helena today. Lisa, Sweeney. Male voice, Jahrul is not there. Jahrul. Bill,
yes,
Bill, yeah. So how do you, how do you take the?
Mr. Damoji, CMS has been working on the gender issue with girls and young women in rural area since 1999. First of all, we express our gratitude to Congress of Learning for giving to opportunity to work since 2016. Many countries of the world, including Bangladesh, are working on gender issue, but now they have dealt with many problems. I think that before establishing women's rights, in the first necessary to start working from her family and then the society. If the main person of the family is not gender conscious, so society will not be gender conscious. I encourage several problems with working the field. After discussing the right of adolescent girls, reproductive health, reproductive system, child marriage, HIV/AIDS, girls empowerment, etc. In this session, where was a backlash man among the parents, they are not allowing girls to come the session but training center. They thought we are teaching many bad things, destroying the society. They believe that if these things are mixed, they will not be able to marry their girls. Not only this, many husbands used to abuse their girls during the session. After they share the said things, they have seen many indicators like this. But we had only one target: women empowerment and women's rights should be established anyway. Since then, we have decided to start working from the family. Then society followed the other sectors. Not only that, we have many gaps regarding gender amongst the staff within organization. Some staff had attitude problem, lack of awareness, gender policy was prepared then. Gender cell have been formed in the head office and field level. Regular monitoring cell start monitoring, and regular monitoring in being done the fortnightly basis on monitoring report. But it took a long time fixed it. At the field level, the parents were first informed by going door to door. Later, through the local support group, the issues of race and various programs in the area. It is matter mainly salary. Many women cannot accept the male-dominated society, and after that, for the development of society or country, the support women are necessary on one complete the others. But it is very experience in our organization. We lot of face in the problem, but now we are little problem face in the field area. But we are trying how to empowerment, how to gender norms reduce, how to establish their rights. We are always struggle in the field level. But we are happy that we are we are working in since 1991, but we are trying continue how to dissolve, how to mitigation the problem. Thank you,
Thank
Damoji.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jawaharlal. Like, let's see very quick comments on today's session before we close. Anyone would like to? Yes, Millicent.
Thank you, Damo.
Yeah.
From the discussion today, we can conclude that addressing the strategic gender needs, it is important because when we address these needs, we allow people to have control over their lives beyond the socially defined restrictive roles. And on the other hand, it also helps in achieving the SDGs. For example, especially the SDG 5, which talks about gender equality. Yeah, and other SDGs like SDG 1, SDG 4. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Millicent. That was wonderful. Yeah, I think it contributes to in terms of how their status and position can improve. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much for your participation today. I think it was one of the important one where we are making a distinction in terms of that, as Millicent was rightly saying, addressing strategic gender needs help to improve the status and image of women in the society, so that you challenge the norms, rules, and relations, which are the building blocks for gender inequality. So thank you very much for your participation. Would see you Monday, same time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.